Hello everybody. It's really great to have you here. Welcome for the 9th edition of Process Mining Camp. It's amazing to see you join from all over the world, from all these different places, and we are really happy to have you. 8 years ago, when we organized the first Process Mining Camp, we got the idea because we were talking to people who were starting to apply process mining at their respective companies, and very often they were really the only person at the whole organization who even knew what process mining was, right? So it was much less well known back then, and they were kind of lonely in this position, and there weren't any places where practitioners could meet and talk about process mining. There were academic conferences, but you had to be a little bit of a researcher to fully appreciate and understand what was discussed there and to benefit from that. So we decided to organize Process Mining Camp as a community meeting place where these people could talk to each other and meet each other. And so when we realized that this year we had to do the Process Mining Camp online in some kind of digital form, that was our main concern. Like, what could we do to preserve the community that is so central to Process Mining Camp in this online format, right? So how could we do that? And so the way we are doing this year, and let's see how it works, is that we have the traditional, the customary practice talk presentations by people from different companies, from different areas, who share what worked for them and what they have done with process mining, and also what was difficult, right? So that you can all learn from it. So we're streaming these talks, but in addition to the talks themselves, we have created a community. We're using the Slack platform for that. So we are calling it our campfire Slack, because it's the place where we're all gathering around to talk to each other. And Slack is essentially a messaging and discussion forum, which is organized around what in Slack are called channels. So you can think of these channels as different rooms. For example, the general channel is what you see when you get into the Slack for the first time. This is like the hallway, right, where you enter and you can say hi to people, you can meet others, talk about process mining, anything that comes to your mind. We also have a random channel, which is a little bit like a water cooler, where you can share non-process mining related stuff if you want to. But the center place are the channels that are related to these individual practice talks, right? So we have one channel for each of these talks that are coming up at Process Mining Camp this year. And so the reason that we have organized it in this way is that we really wanted to give time to discuss these process mining topics with the community. And that's really an opportunity that we have here, because usually you know that from the traditional, the physical face-to-face conference, you have these 10 minutes at the end of the presentation where you can ask your question if you dare to, or if you can think of something that you want to know in that moment. Very often, actually, just a little bit later, when you are maybe moving out, walking into the break or something, you realize, oh, there actually would have been a question that you would have had and that would have been interesting to ask. Now, this year at camp, you actually can ask that question, because you have a full day to discuss the presentation after it has finished. So after the presentation, we will continue the discussion in the Slack community in that particular channel, and then we will bring back the speaker the next day in what we call the Process Mining Cafe. So in the Process Mining Cafe, the speaker from the previous presentation will be back, and we will discuss with them to connect the dots, to summarize what we have learned from the community discussion, to answer some open questions, and to tie everything together. So that's what we're going to try to do. And even after that next day, you can in fact even continue to the discussions in these individual channels. Of course, the Slack channel is open 24/7, so you can discuss around the clock if you want to, and that's useful also because we have people joining from all kinds of different time zones and different countries. But at the same time, it was important for us that we try to do this as relaxed as possible. So that's why we have just one presentation per day, so we can really give it the attention it deserves, but also it's not such an overload, right? You can basically tune in for your daily dose of process mining and then get back to the rest of your life. And so far, let's see how it works out. But so far, I must say, I'm having fun. So usually at the process mining camp, it's like one big day where all the presentations take place, and then you basically have 1 minute to talk to someone, and then you have to kind of move on. So already last week when we opened the Slack, we had some really nice discussions, and you can talk at length. And what is also really nice to see is that the campers are talking to each other, right? And that's of course something that we also have in the community. Everyone can see all the discussions that are taking place, so it's easy for you to see what is being talked about and to jump in anywhere where you're interested yourself. You have something to share that you think could be interesting for the people talking about it, or you have another question to ask, right? So that's something that's really nice. And this becomes even more important this week when we are moving to the practice talks, because what we did last week was that we opened with a little pre-workshop session. The idea for that came from the fact that a lot of people have joined the camp this year who are really new to the topic. And at Process Mining Camp, we're not explaining what process mining is, right? There's no introduction or something. So everyone assumes that you know what process mining is already. And therefore, we thought it's useful to give a little primer to those people who are new. And so we did that. And that's part of the whole methodology, what we were discussing there. We were talking about, for example, how to take different perspectives at the process, or how to simplify complex process maps, which types of analysis you can do. And these kind of topics are important for an analyst, right? So process mining analyst needs to know these kind of things. For example, also how to detect and clean data quality problems. That's kind of the methodology, or in German you would say Handwerkszeug, or in Dutch it's the Fachmannsschap, or the trade or discipline, right? The methodology that process mining is about. But when we apply process mining, that's only a piece of the puzzle. And what is as important as the methodology of process mining itself is everything around it, like where you're using process mining in your organization. So the context can be very different. You can use and make use of process mining in many different contexts. And the context is different, for example, because people apply process mining for different use cases. For example, if you're using process mining as an auditor, it's very different, has very different goals and purpose compared to, for example, a process improvement team, right? But it's also different in different organizations. For example, different companies have different structures or have different cultures and might do things a little bit differently. And so when a company or a person is getting started with process mining for the first time, they don't just have to learn how to use the process mining tool and the methodology around it, like we discussed before, but they also have to see how does it fit into their way of working, right? And in their day-to-day practice, and who's doing these process mining analysis and when, and how does it fit and compare with the way that they're currently already doing their work. And this is exactly where what Process Mining Camp is about, to let you see how other people have approached their process mining projects in the past, to learn from them, to also learn from their mistakes, so you don't have to make the same mistakes. But now also in the community we can all discuss together, and you can share your own experiences based on what the speakers told you. So that's what we're going to do, and the program is really varied. We have something for everyone. I'm convinced. For example, tomorrow we will have a talk about customer journey analysis. On Wednesday we will talk about process mining and simulation. On Thursday we will talk about how to how to set up process mining in a decentralized organization. On Friday, we're talking about auditing use cases. On Monday, we're talking about a healthcare process mining case. On Tuesday next week, it's about how to combine operational management with process mining. And on Wednesday next week, we have the closing keynote by Wilfried Alst, who will talk about new research on object-centric process mining. So without further ado, today the first practice talk at this year's process mining camp will be given by Christian Pohle. Let's bring in our first speaker. Hi, Christian. Welcome.
Hello, Anna. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thanks for joining us today. Christian is head of process at Lufthansa Technik, and he will talk about the theory of constraints to optimize the turnaround time for parts repair. Now, Christian, I'm curious. Do you still remember? As a head of process, you're used to working with processes and analyzing processes all the time. But do you still remember when you realized, or how you came to realize that process mining could be something that you could leverage?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago when I took over my first head of something position. And the point was, as soon as you've got a new position, I think everyone tends to really put a footstep there and give a signal that you are there. So I was looking for a good idea, for a good methodology, a good thing to prove and then to use within my organization. And the great part is that we're having a really, really great ERP system at Lufthansa Technik. So everything we do, we have a start timestamp for and an end timestamp for. And hearing about this new process mining methodology, it came to my mind that we should really try this out, and this is what we actually did. And this approach became really famous within Lufthansa Technik, and people were really interested how we did something, and people were that interested that they came to me and asked me if I wanted to hold a speech about this right here in this process mining camp a little later on, of course. And this is why I'm here right now, and I'm really looking forward to this session, Anna.
That's great. Thanks so much for being here. So then, yes, please get started. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Christian Pohle. I'm from Germany, and I'm working for Lufthansa Technik. And with this session, I'd like to take you on a journey about an experience at Lufthansa Technik, how process mining really helped to get from strategy to operations. So it's really a huge picture altogether I'm drawing with you. A huge picture about Lufthansa Technik processes, and now just a short picture about myself, so you get a little glimpse of myself. My name is Christian Pohle. I'm 39 years old. I'm married, have 2 children. We live in Hamburg, work for Lufthansa Technik, obviously. I've been studying business and economics with a focus on IT, production management, business intelligence. After my studying, I went to IBM, business consulting services. I did several projects at so many different companies and countries with so many great people. I got to know there, and the projects mostly were about, IBM, software development, but also methodology development, which was really interesting to me. And then I got a chance to move on to Hamburg, really settle down there as my wife and me, then got married. And went to Hamburg, and I got the chance to work for Lufthansa Technik, and I began my work there in logistics for business intelligence. And there I got to know the digital world of Lufthansa Technik, which was really flattering, really, really interesting altogether, but it was a little far away from reality, as reality took place on my screen. And that's not the entire reality, as you can imagine, of course. And then there was a coincidence that was so great, as Lufthansa Technik has a so-called lean training program, and you are taken out for half a year of your position, and you're getting into lean management. For the first month, You got to know everything about lean management, the tooling, methodology, and so on and so on. So you don't even know how to spell lean. And then for the last 5 months, you really get to know how to really use lean. And after that time, I got the chance to work at the lean department. Then I became head of lean department, process management, and the experience I want to share with you really arose from that experience, from that time, because I went to production and did lean and process optimization there. And after some time, the head of the board called me, and that was 2 years ago. And head of production told me, well, Christian, what you just did in production with lean management and process optimization really impresses us and the entire company. Could you please come over to a central service, namely to IT, the central IT department, and really do exactly the same there as well, with a huge impact for the entire Lufthansa. That was really flattering, and the great experience for myself is that I am really familiar with everything that is called lean within production on the one hand, but on the other hand also administration. And that combined with business intelligence, transparency altogether, process mining, and so on, that's really helpful for my job. Okay, that was enough about myself, but now you get to know a bit who I am and what I'm doing. And now I want to take you on a journey, and this will happen on the next slide. I hope you can see all the slides. Oops. There's the mouse. There's the next slide. To take you on this journey, I want to give you a very brief overview of the LHT business model. So I brought you the ARC business model. ARC stands for airframe related components. And the most important part to see at this slide is that speed really is a very important performance driver for Lufthansa Technik, because there are really two streams you can see here on the slide that are important to us. The first one, and those 70% of our business, is as following. 70% of our customers send us a broken part, and they send this to a pool, which is like a stock of parts that are available, and they will get a serviceable, so a part they can really use in return from us. And it's really, really fast. So now we have their broken part, and they have our repaired part. So it's really up to us, and it's really in our high interest to take this broken part from the customer and bring it over to our repair process, bring it and steer it into this process, get it through this really quickly, really smoothly, and then make it available really quickly to the pool. So as soon as the next customer comes and he wants to have that certain part, then we can serve him right away. Okay, those are 70%. And as you can see, it's really important for that one to have a good speed, especially to serve the pool and also to go through the repair process. The repair process consists of two elements. First of all, administration and production. Both sides need to work together really perfectly in order to make it a real smooth process. And there's a second stream, about 30% of our business we're doing with that. It's called the closed loop product. Imagine there is a customer, an airline coming, and they say, well, take this part, please, it's broken, and we want exactly this part here back again. So obviously here is speed that the driver, as they wouldn't accept another part but their own. And so it's really important to get the part right away to our layer, then get it into our repair process, and then back to the customer. So okay, I think it's really obvious that speed is important. So I will get to the next slide, and I really want to want to share this with you as we are doing our strategy process. We're doing that every 2 or 3 years. And in 2019, we adjusted or updated our strategy process as we do that regularly. And we do this using the Golden Circle by Simon Sinek. You might have heard of that. It's about the why. Why do you exist on the market, you company? Then how do you work? And then at the very end, you say, what do you do? What are your processes? Well, on this slide, you can see our why, because we started, why do we exist on the market? Well, because we want to be the better choice to keep you flying, you, the other airline, our customer. And that was the why. That was kind of easy to define. But now comes the question about the how, following the Golden Circle by Simon Sinek. And the how, the how really consists of 3 aspects in my industry. First of all, the quality needs to be perfect. Of course, thinking about airplanes, it needs to be perfect in quality. Costs are very important, especially these days, as you can imagine, and also speed. Those 3 drivers are our house. And well, then we considered how are we doing regarding those 3 drivers. And quality is, well, Lufthansa Technik is very famous for its perfect quality. That's the reason why customers come to us. So, okay, that shouldn't be the problem. Then costs, well, compared to others and benchmarking and so on, no, that is not our problem as well. But speed, well, speed, we really had the feeling that speed, that might be our topic. But we were not that sure. We didn't have it proven, or we were not that convinced that this theory that speed is our topic is really correct. So what I really liked in lean management, there is a saying called from belly to brain. Belly, we have the feeling that something is bad or is not working correctly. And to get to brain means to prove it, to really be convinced, yes, your feeling is right. And what we had was this feeling you can see on the slide right now. It's a picture of a German Autobahn highway. And normally we would have, how many lanes do we have? I would say altogether 8 lanes. Well, there is a potential to be really fast on a German Autobahn, but on this one, it feels lame. Well, half of the lanes are usable, and this is absolutely not helpful in our business. In whose business is it helpful to have potential, but you don't unleash it? Well, okay, and then we are getting closer. We really want to go from belly to brain. And we did this from 2 sides, from the external side, from the internal side. The external side, obviously, we did the benchmarking. We went to customers. We had a chat with some competitors, saying, okay, how fast are they offering their services, which were comparable to what we do? And we asked the customers how satisfied they were, and well, that picture wasn't too good at all, to be really honest. Well, that was 2 years ago, and 1.5 years ago. Okay, that was the external view, and the internal view. Well, me as a old school leaner, okay, what would I've done? I would have gone to shop floor. I would have gone to the people who were working there, taking my watch, my stopwatch, having a look, how are they working? Okay, this is the first work step. It starts right now. Then he's performing his work. Then he ends the performing. Okay, then the part is transferred over to the second work stop. Now it starts, now it ends, and so on and so on. That takes a lot of time, doesn't it? I think I think everyone knows that it's really precise. Not even that. It's not even really precise. Because it really depends on what people you are working together with. And At that time, I heard about, and I told you, Anna, I told you that when you asked me in the first place about my experience and when I got in touch with process mining. That was the time when I got in touch with process mining, because we have this really great steering tool, the ERP system, steering the parts through our organization, getting starting point, end point, and so on, the quantities. And I said, well, wouldn't it be a great idea to use this process mining and feeding it with all of our information from our ERP system? And the great part is that the ERP system really covers both the production work steps and also the administrative work steps. So it's really an entire complete view of our way of working. And so we just tried it. We gave it a try. And on the next slide, I want to show you what we see here. And I made a video out of that, and I will try to hold on a second, and I will comment that. Okay, here we go. Well, on the high level, you can see the LHT process overview, and it's starting from the top, going to the bottom. When we zoom in, you can see all those work steps. You can see the quantities starting from top, and the process goes, well, it starts there. It either goes to the left side or, well, on the right side, there's obviously a rejection or something like that. Well, that's interesting. And what we can do now, we move closer to reality. And now we can see some more work steps that are happening within our organization. And now this process is not as streamlined as we've seen in the first place before we zoomed in. And here we can see the mainstream. Well, we can try to see the mainstream, how parts are passing through our organization, but it doesn't look that streamlined anymore, to be honest. And now we can even add some more combinations, and I will move a bit further as we have to wait a little. And this is reality. And to be honest, 50% and 50%, if you see on the right side, it's just half of the former reality, how we work. And that was really terrible. It is obvious that we had to do something. And then what we did, I really like this function that you can even have a look at the video, how you work. And what you see here are all those. I mean, you had a look at the disco tool by yourself. All the parts are those yellow those yellow dots. And as soon as I press start, all those parts, you can see half a year of Lufthansa Technik work, how they drop through our organization. And now just take your time and think of where you want to work. Where is it a stressful day you probably have, or where you have a really relaxed day, or if you have to do some rework, as you can see. Well, I think it's really eye-opening. And this is what we really did. Let's just wait until the video ends. Okay, I think that was the last part. Besides all those really interesting insights we have, and that I want to share with you in just a few slides, when you're doing lean management, the process improvement things, you always need to do this change management, the communication, of course, because if you want to really improve something, advance something, you need to get your people on your side, to get their support, their buy-in, their conviction. And what we used and what we did is we used this process mining for our change management and communication campaign as soon as we started our improvement project. And when we really started, we had a huge come together with, I think those were 480 persons from administration and from production. And we told them, well, we want to improve the entire process as we all feel that we are that the process is not that streamlined, and we want to take you on this journey to get from belly to brain. And especially when you're having a look at this, I think when we saw the video at this point here, that's the inspection. The inspection people are not the most popular people in the community in production, because everyone is working for them, and people really didn't understand why it takes them so long to do their work. And this is the reason, because of that not that good reputation, that when we did this huge communication with those 480 people, that those 10 or 12 people from inspection, they stood like that. They weren't really convinced that we could take the people on the journey and really do make the world a better place for them. But then we showed exactly what I just showed you, this movie about process mining, and their body language, standing there like this, really was getting more open. And they said, well, everybody, now you can see my daily life, how stressful it really is, and how many things I have to do at the same time. And then people really started to think of what they've seen, and they understood why the work of the guys in inspection isn't that easy at all. And people understood each other better. That even for that aspect, it was so great to have this process mining. On the next slide, On the next slide, I put you everything together. Even from the high level here on the left-hand side, you can see the bottlenecks we identified. Here, A is the inspection, B is calculation and proposal, and C is the repair process. And then the next step, we took some experts, especially from ABC, from those process aspects, and we got a little closer together with them, having a look at the process itself. And we asked the people, especially here from inspection, right now it takes 20 hours to perform that work in inspection. And you inspection people who are really, really experienced in what you're doing, if we really involved you, and if you could really improve the world the way it should be, really get all the potential, how many hours do you experts think could you really take off the process to really speed on? And they said, well, out of those 20 initially, we would only need 6 hours to perform that. But right now we have to work 14 hours for other interfaces, for example, for other departments to work for us, to send them their results so we can do our work. I mean, this was such a great insight for them. And for other departments, because we really did this open-minded, we really involved every department to that, and people understood each other far better. And exactly the same we did for B, which is the calculation and proposal aspect, and C, this is the repair and certification process. And altogether, we really came up that we could speed up, that we could be even twice as fast as in the beginning. And I mean, this is really a huge motivation for all together, for everyone. And we really got them on the boat to go onto this journey. On the next slide, the interesting part is now we really know what the burdens of speed were. We've seen this ABC, what you can see right here. This is A, B, and C. And we identified the potential together with all the experts. But now is the question, especially from my process optimization perspective, do we optimize everything at the same time? that might be an approach, but is that really helpful? Or how is it maybe possible to put this in an order of optimizing things? And there we had the idea of using the theory of constraints. The theory of constraints means that you really start with the worst bottleneck. And process mining supports you to answer this question of the theory of constraints. Which one of those three speed burdens is the worst? Well, and then we had a look at the data, the process mining approach, and an inspection. There was, here on the right side, you always see the highway, the intended way people should work through this process. But on the left-hand side, you can see the clarification. On the left side, you can see that in every aspect. On the left side, you can see the pausing, the holding on, the clarification of a process, where we always lose time. And here are some quantities. 60% of the inspection parts were held, and we could speed up by 6 days, taking the entire process, of course. For proposal and approval, 80% didn't go through the highway. No, 80% went into clarification, and it took even 12 days longer. Well, proposal to a customer and getting an approval back normally takes quite a while. But the interaction, the communication wasn't that good, obviously, back in those days. And the C aspect, the process of repairing and certification, well, 80%, you can see that here really clearly, 80% of our parts and the process of repair and certification went through clarification and went on to hold. And that took even 12 days longer. Understandable, I mean, to be honest. And the theory of constraints now helped us to get this into an order, because it's obvious that B, the proposal and approval process, is the worst one, followed by repair and certification, and then the inspection, really coming from belly to brain. We had the feeling that something is bad, that we are not working smoothly together, and now this is our proof, what we can see. Well, what did we do with this insight? On the next slide, that even rhymes, I can show the entire picture of the strategy process where we started in the first place. I think that was the first slide I just shared with you. Well, we came up with this why, how, what, following Simon Sinek. Why is to be the better choice to keep you flying. How, the main driver was speed, which we just identified. And now we were able to perform a value stream design workshop to really combine the insights of ABC process, which I just showed you, the inspection, proposal, and repair process, really design a really, really high performance process altogether. From that, we derived several topics to optimize. And well, in the older days, from my lean perspective, I would have made, for all those derived topics, I would have made a transformation project. That might have worked out as well. But if you only read through these titles, even reading the titles, not even knowing what's underneath all that, responsibility model, gate concept, who does what in what order and how much time do they have, production planning and steering, new organization in the administration, all these derived topics really depend on each other, and it's really hard to make a cut here and there to really separate those topics. So what did we do? We decided not to do the classical lean approach by doing the classical transformation projects. No, we rather decided to try something new, and we did the Agile approach. So what did we do? We put all those derived topics, process segments A, B, and C, which I just showed you, into this backlog, Agile terminology. And in the backlog, you can find all the speed potentials we just derived in a certain order. And then we got started with the classical Scrum team altogether. And that was really the first approach that we did this in this industry. So the deriving where we came from was very sensational, brand new, innovative by using the process mining approach, then the theory of constraints, and now even the next steps, doing it in the Agile approach. And how did we do this? If you typed in Scrum framework, most of you have heard of that. If you typed in Scrum framework within Google, hit enter, and then had a look at the images that are presented to you. This graphic is supposed to, I think this is one of the very first graphics you can show. And how this is theory again, but how do we bring theory to practice? Well, we had a filled backlog with all the speed potential aspects in it. And then we decided to choose an Agile setup using a tool called Jira. Jira is produced by Atlassian. They are also doing like Confluence, Wiki, and Trello is very famous by them. And Jira is a ticketing tool. It helps to structure work. And this is exactly what we needed, because we were able to put all our insights, what we just saw about process aspect A, B, and C, and all the aspects, the things to do, the stories to do, we put that in the backlog in Jira and structurized that, which was very helpful to start working on the right things and don't waste your time. How did we do that? Well, by using a self-organized team fulfillment. And the great part is we really stick to the original Agile approach, and we didn't really manipulate anything. We just left it the way we read it, because we were not really experienced back then using Agile approaches, but now we are. And this was the lighthouse, the very starting point. And so we really stick to the book by making the team that is working in there, which was a cross-functional team. I think we had 9 people in that team of experts, and they were 100% available. They were working there every day, giving official open dailies, and they were working in Jira. When you're working in Jira, there's a story you need to do in order to improve a process, for example. And when you are inserting that, when you're just putting it into your backlog, it starts with the status of being open. As soon as you start working on that, the status of open switches into in progress, then into in test, communication, and then finished, done, whatever was solved. And when you're working with Jira, just the way I just described it, you could perfectly follow the approach and what they really achieved. And this is what we displayed over here on the right side, showing the Agile success. And we could perfectly follow up and really follow what that team of experts, the Scrum team, really reached and achieved. That was so great. And of course, after every sprint, we have a retrospective meeting for the continuous improvement within the team. To ask, okay, we did the sprint for 2 weeks, we reached this and that, but were we really able to work with each other properly, or was there a burden within the team, for example? And this is what they solved within the team, and we, from the management perspective, we really support that team from the very first day, as everyone was really looking at that. It was a focused topic, a focused project altogether. And on the last slide, I want to show you, well, the results well, what is the result you can see here? The project itself was a huge success, to put that in a nutshell. But not only because we got even faster, the potential of what I just showed you was 50% faster. We were even 80% faster. So it was really such a great support by starting with process mining. But the other aspect, which is even, of course, it's important to reach that goal, but for sustainability, it's even more important to get the people on a sustainable journey. And because of the fact that I need to get back on the slide, what the team achieved here was displayed and shown within the official and completely open sprint review. Everyone in the LHT, in the Lufthansa Technik community, was allowed and was invited to join this meeting when all our experts showed what they reached. And this openness and this honesty, that was so much appreciated by the people. And the honesty was really touchable for everyone, because it was not only the sprint review that was open, not even that, no, but also what we did for this project, we came up with a wiki site, with a wiki page, and we had an implant from Jira. And as soon as you went on this wiki page and had a look of the progress of the project, you could perfectly follow what people and what the experts, what they really reached during every day. And if you were so interested in this and that topic, you could really jump into every single aspect and follow this project. And when we started the project, we did this sprint review in a really small room, as we were not that sure if any people were really interested in what they did and what they would reach. But over the time, we needed to find bigger rooms, because people were that interested. We finally ended up in the smallest canteen we had, transferring everything and beaming everything with a beamer, so people could follow, as people were that interested. And that was a huge compliment from the organization, as people believed in what we did, because we really went from belly to brain. We could prove what we did. And to come to an end of this session, I would really want to say process mining was the key to first identify our burdens of speed, and then help to prioritize using the theory of constraints. And then we took it over in the Agile approach, and that became even closer to the people. And they really worked on that. And Lufthansa Technik was really able to streamline the process you saw in the first place. We are happy that those days are over, and our process is very, very fast by now. And process mining became a regular element in our performance dialogues, as all the team leaders and group leaders, people who are responsible for certain aspects of the entire process, they continuously have a look of the actual situation, and they are showing that they're people using process mining and using this video function. People believe in what they see, people see what they really reached, and they want to go even further. Continuous improvement. And that, together with process mining, it was really, really helpful. And now I want to thank you for your attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christian. Thanks for taking us on this journey. So you really in a very tangible way, you took us through all the steps and the stages that you went through. And it's a really impressive journey. And I'm so happy that the process mining could deliver such great results in this particular situation. Now, before we wrap up, let's just stay a little bit more for a small Q&A session. I see some people have already also started to ask some questions in the community. I'll start by asking one or two questions myself, because one thing I was wondering about is you started your journey or your story by telling us that one of the reasons that you could do process mining and maybe even got the idea to do it is that you had very good data, right? So you had this ERP system where the data was very accurately recording the start and the end times and things like that. Now, I'm wondering, is there a particular reason why this data was so good? Because that's a stumbling block that many people who are new to process mining have, is that they want to do process mining, but the first thing they encounter is that they actually have poor data quality, and then this is something, usually you can do something with it, but you have to be very careful to draw the right conclusions, to clean the data sufficiently, and so on and so forth. So I'm curious, how come your data was so good that you put particular effort in this, or is it more like a happy incident?
The last one, it's a happy incident that Lufthansa Technik, happy incident in my industry. It's very important to take care of a high quality. And how do you really reach a high quality? By using standards. Otherwise, we were not allowed to work at all. Otherwise, if we were not able to perform at a certain quality in a standardized way of working, we were not allowed to perform our work. We would lose our license, and therefore it's very important. It's really the coin that we have a steering system, the ERP system, that is so precise in what it's doing. It's really absolutely precise. If you're taking this part, what do we do in the first place? What's the first work step you have to do? And a computer with this ERP system knows exactly how to deal with that, because we are doing loads of statistics. We have so much experience in this industry, and there are so many insights and information fed into this ERP system that is steering perfectly. And by doing this steering perfectly, there are so many great data just falling into our hands to perform this process mining approach. So we were just lucky to have that, but it's a duty for our industry to have such a precision in what we're doing.
Right. Yes, I understand. So it's really due to the industry and the digitalization that happened in the whole control and the steering of the process itself that really laid the perfect foundation for this. Yeah, sure. No, that's perfect. And another question that I had is specifically about the theory of constraints. So I've been talking with many also Lean Six Sigma people who are using process mining, things like that. Theory of constraints, it's not that everyone seems to be using that. Is that, in your opinion, just a common standard technique and people, I just didn't hear it that much? Or you think that it is something that not everyone knows about?
Well, I heard it in my studies back then, in the older days when I was studying. but that was more a theory of constraints. It was really just in the books, and I was not sure how and where to use that in daily business life. But when we came to this aspect of, should we improve everything at the same time? Other people would do that or might do that. Or would we, there's a saying in lean management, to cut the elephant in tiny slices, to really work on that precisely. And if you're cutting the elephant in tiny slices to really work on that, you need to have an order. Which one to do first? And we just ask ourselves, is there a technique, an idea how to bring this all into an order? And that was just an idea, and we just tried it. It was like an experiment, and it worked out quite well. You know, the compliment from organization altogether was that several projects are really following our example. And it's always a good sign when people start copying your example.
Yes. For sure. Okay, great. Yes, thanks for that. The other question that I had is, and that was more relating to this moment that you were describing so nicely when you were all standing in front of the animation, and you had these people from the inspection step, right, that were basically blamed by everyone, and they were kind of standing there with their arms crossed like that, and that in a way, the way you described is that creating this transparency created trust and
Yeah.
opened them up. But doesn't sometimes also transparency can also be threatening, right? So sometimes people
Absolutely.
are threatened by it. So did it require the right culture as a prerequisite, or why do you think did it work and maybe didn't do the opposite?
Well, we really had to do something. When you're starting with a process optimization project, I personally always start by producing positive consternation. Positive consternation really means get the people's buy-in because they understand why we really have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just a saying, yeah, we need to improve something. No, we really feel the urgency that something needs to be improved. Otherwise, we would really run into a big problem. And as soon as you can prove that, and people believe in that, and people in Lufthansa Technik, of course, everyone knows our ERP system, and if people in Lufthansa Technik really believe in something, then it's that ERP system because that's really the truth. And when we said we took all those process mining data from our ERP system, people said, well, okay, yes, we believe in what we see. And that they really were touched by what they see shows the reaction of the inspection guys, because their reaction was so human, so great. They said, well, now everyone in this organization understands our daily life. I mean, that was so helpful for us. Oh, and yeah, great. Thank you, by the way, for the question. When we showed and when we announced this agile approach, how we wanted to solve those problems, we identified this ABC projects. We stood there in front of those 480 people. We announced the approach and we said, well, we want to do this with your expertise. As you are the ones with the answers. I'm just the one with the question. And I try to structure that. And we will offer you this agile approach, this really honest, open-minded approach. And if there is someone from each and every single department who's interested in participating and really working within this project, then please show up and you will reach me afterwards. Here's my phone number, my email address, and so on and so on. And there was really, I'm not exaggerating, there was a flood of interested people. Really, there were so many people who were interested and really eager to work within this project. And I mean, that was so flattering for us, as this obviously was really the first time that people felt they were understood. It's their daily business we want to talk about, but not over their heads. We want to talk about their daily business, how to improve that together with them. Right. On the same level. And this was really a key, and that was helpful. People believed. If people believe, you know what you can reach. That's so important.
Yes, exactly. Right. It sounds like you managed to convey, to bring people on board and to convey. I think that's also just looking at some of the questions that have came up. But for example, Jeff mentioned the blameless post-mortem, right? I think the question of blame is something that indeed can make people feel threatened. So you managed to convey that it's not about blame. It's about, we are in this together. We are going to all together. We are doing our best and we are improving this together.
That's true. Absolutely.
Right. And also, so relating to Giovanni asked the question, like, isn't this like referring to the inspection people who were actually saying, well, we could do it in 6 hours instead of 20, but these 14 hours we're actually busy working, with the other departments and having to interface and get their orders in or getting stuff back to them. Like he was asking, like, isn't that always what people say, right? Like it's the other departments who are like kind of to blame for that. But I guess
finger pointing, terrible, right?
Yeah, but I guess you gave the answer already, because the data made it objectively clear, right? You could point to it together. So
that's the point.
There was no way just to blame, but everyone knew what the truth was.
If people tell you, I believe in our steering system, and then you just show the result of the steering system by displaying half a year of working at Lufthansa Technik. Then why nobody doubted those information and those data, and that was really helpful. Of course, that was one of the keys.
Right. I think that's the perfect place to end. So that's like the really nice story of process mining, a really nice success story. I'm very happy that you came here today and shared this with all of us. Like we said in the beginning, we're not finished yet, but we're basically opening the discussion in the community, so you can keep asking your questions. We will all be there and discuss together. And then, Christian, we will welcome you back tomorrow at the same time, and then we will connect the dots and share what was discussed and close the loop on this presentation.
I'm really looking forward to your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you all for tuning in today's first Process Mining Camp session. You can go to the Lufthansa channel in the Slack community to keep discussing, and then I'll see you all again back tomorrow at the same time. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow. Welcome back, everyone, for the second session of Process Mining Camp today. So we will start today's session first by the Process Mining Café, where we welcome back the speaker from the previous day. So welcome back, Christian. Thanks for coming back today.
Hello, Anna. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you all, too.
So, you gave us a presentation yesterday sharing your experience of applying process mining at Lufthansa Technik. And you already got some reactions, quite some good reactions about it.
Absolutely. And I really like to thank you all for such a great feedback. Those questions that were really inspiring, and I gave some of them to my team, and we were discussing already about them, and it was really, really helpful to think forward. And it was a win-win situation. Win-win situation for both sides, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. That on the one hand. Secondly, Ferry, thank you so much for this brilliant picture. I'm always impressed of people who are able to grab a situation and that put that in a drawing that's so meaningful. And I like to use those things when I'm doing change management and communication. And this is a very powerful tool. And I'd like to thank you for that. Sorry, Anna, I needed to get really this over in the very first place.
All right. Of course. Thanks. So let's get started. We have around 20 minutes or so now for this follow-up discussion. And so I want to start by giving a little bit of feedback. So there's a summary. I've collected some of the points that people were sharing. One of them, I think we all realized that it's not just the analysis that you did, but also that it was you with your openness and transparency, like Jan Taco noticed, that were really helpful for this approach. So not just from belly to brains, as he noted, but also the other way around again. And David called it judgment-free process mining or judgment-free process improvement. So I think that's just something to underscore once more. It's not just about the technique, but the culture around it and the approach that people really appreciated and pointed out. And I couldn't agree more. So that's something I wanted to highlight again.
Thank you.
The other thing that just came up, I thought would be nice to mention was that David also had the idea that how could process mining actually be used together with the Jira, because Jira as a ticketing system is producing data again. So that's actually also something that you can analyze again with process mining. And in fact, we did have a presentation about this at Process Mining Camp a few years ago by Mark Tollins from KLM, who showed us how they were using kind of the Jira logs to analyze. So that's something that we have also linked in the Slack channel. for those of you who want to take a look at that kind of complementary presentation. And then the big thing, of course, that came up also in the discussion was that the data quality is really inspiring. For example, Esther said, like, it stimulates us to have good data in the company too, but also I think people were a little bit envious, like that you had this good data and that was the basis for what you could do. And maybe that's a good place to start with the question. So for example, Rien was asking, the data is collected by design in a very good quality. So was the organization even aware that they were sitting on top of such valuable data? So what would you say about this?
Well, it's always the same with treasures. There's like a data treasure. Not everyone knows about that, and those of the ones who know where the exactly position is, they don't really talk about that. Two answers to that question. Those data from our steering tool, this ERP system we talked about yesterday quite often, they of course know about the treasure, and they constantly improve the quality of this ERP and the steering tool to have a really precise steering, which is important to our industry. That would be my first answer. The second answer is that our central IT department was then starting to build a data lake to really draw all really information together to identify patterns, for example, and to go more into prediction. This is really, really helpful for our customers as a service, and customers really, really appreciate that kind of service. So this treasure has been opened, and it has been used internally and more in a broader way for the entire Lufthansa Technik to even offer more products itself. So the treasure is really a treasure, and knowledge and data, that's power, and we're using that power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, so that's the treasure that you have, and now everyone is aware of that. But what Rien also wondered was it never questioned so that the quality was actually good? Because often, even if data quality is not an issue, and people might still say, well, it's actually not true, or how can we trust the data, even if the data quality is there? So, what was the reason, or did you encounter any issues there that was not a problem?
The trust in what we demonstrate and what we showed, especially I told you about this change management campaign yesterday, when all those 480 people watching the people from inspection, and they were a little skeptical in the very first place. I told you about that. It's very important that everyone really believes in the quality of the data. And the reason why that really is the case for Lufthansa Technik is that we have some people who this is their original and only a topic to take care of a good data quality, and even improvement of the data and statistics and forecast to improve this constantly. Because otherwise we would run after the market, and we want to really form the market with Lufthansa Technik, and this is a very good tool to do this. So there are really experts involved from all departments improving those data and really question those data day by day, and this is the reason why we really trust in this steering. This is important.
Yes. Okay, so we stay with the data a little bit more. So Ciaran was wondering, how do you accurately measure process speeds and steps when they're not automated processes, right? We were talking here about, for example, inspections of parts.
Highly manual processes, yes, of course.
Exactly.
She's so right. Absolutely.
Yes. And
Nevish, I think Nevish was the one who gave a partial answer. This is something I would absolutely support. Nevish wrote that operators log their start and end times for each task they undertake, and this is exactly what they do. And there's really manual aspects of the process. The question only is how realistic and honest these data and timestamps are. And Well, if I perfectly understand a system, then I know how to betray the system. That's obvious. The question is therefore rather a cultural question. Are people and management at that company that honest, and do they trust each other that we wouldn't do any bad things about those data? And I think honesty and trust is something that is really occurring, and this is there within Lufthansa Technik. People are very proud and they are honest. They trust each other. They trust in the industry and the product. And those are very, very good values. And this is a felt and really actively lived sustainability. So if I would answer that question, people would have the opportunity to betray when they are setting those timestamps, but they don't, because they know what we do and what the company does with all those timestamps, because we have a really, really prominent, really powerful continuous improvement process at Lufthansa Technik. And when people would betray with setting timestamps, we would have a false picture of reality. And when we are asking them, and this is what we do with our continuous improvement process, when we ask people to support us to improve their daily life, their process, their product, and they would work with their own false timestamps, they would really be a burden for themselves, and people know about that they would hinder themselves, and this is one of the reasons why they really don't do that. Those timestamps and those data we can find in our ERP and the steering system, and then which are taken into process mining tool. Those are real and honest data. Yeah. And there's really, really good feeling that people believe in that and they live that. So it's a good feeling to work there. That people trust each other, and that's so good.
Yeah. So that's I can see that. So they also have to work with the data they produce. They have to rely on it. They need those even manually recorded data fields. They need those for the next step in the process, for example. So clearly they have an interest in the quality of the data, and that also then creates the trust in it. I think another interesting aspect of the question of Navish was that he was wondering whether there's anything that you were trying, or probably it's kind of a trade-off that you always have, right? If you record something manually, it's costing extra work. If someone would just do something without recording what they do, of course, it would cost them a little bit less time. So the more accurate and the more reliable you want to get something, you also at the same time don't want to add to the burden, or maybe reduce productivity. So that could be maybe a reason that people might decide to skip the recording, right? So that's, I think you gave the answer for that already. They really have a high interest in not doing that because they're important. Their awareness, they're aware of the importance of it, but
it's their intention. It's their desire. It's their desire to work there in an honest modus, and this is highly appreciated.
Yeah, that's the most important point. Okay, I think there were some other interesting questions as well. So, for example, I also was curious about your answer about what Johan was asking. So, Johan was asking, were all the cases in your process homogeneous, or did you encounter differences that led to separation of processes? That's something that you sometimes encounter, right? You think it's one process, but actually you have multiple processes in the same data that you should actually look at separately because they're different.
Absolutely. What I showed you yesterday was half a year of Lufthansa Technik parts all together. So it's just a whole mixture of all the processes, all the parts that are running through our company. That is, so the question, to answer the first part of the question, is really heterogeneously, so all different parts. But we are doing this intentionally because we want to do, in the very first place, we want to have an entire picture of the entire company, the entire process of repairing and certifying parts. And then we are separating this picture. because we are then separating by products, for example, by part numbers, and so on, to really identify patterns, to learn from each other, because there might be some part numbers that are running quite smoothly. And then we're having a really close look at those good running parts. What's the reason why they're running that quickly and that smoothly? And to really get a benchmark from that, an inspiration for those parts that are running not that smoothly.
Yeah, it's kind of best practices to promote,
absolutely.
identify.
And even that is a good example of continuous improvement. You always question yourself. You're never at the end of the story. As soon as you've taken the next obstacle, the next one is just waiting after that. And it's a continuous improvement. It's not the improvement, it's a continuous improvement.
Right. And the theory of constraints helps to determine the order in which you're picking things up.
You need that. You can't do everything at the same time.
Right.
I couldn't do that myself. And I'm really glad and thankful that we found this tool, which is quite easy because you're just having a look at the measures and the figures to prioritize your backlog.
Yeah. Exactly. So this continuous improvement really becomes this iterative cycle that you also nicely illustrated that you and your team have picked up in this, in the Agile, using the Agile methodology. Yeah. So maybe, that makes it perhaps a little bit difficult to answer the next question, which is coming from Hilda. She's wondering, how long did it take from the time you learned about process mining to identify bottlenecks in areas of process improvement? Maybe that's the first question, but then also how long did it take to change the processes to achieve the improvement?
Yeah. Well, when I took over this position I told you about, I didn't know anyone, but I went to this department and just grabbed some. I think I talked to 6 people, and I asked them, "What's the biggest potential? What's the part? Those 2 or 3 things that are running very good in this department?" And really, everyone was convinced that data quality was perfect. Well, as I mentioned before, that's really a huge advantage. You can really set on. And then I talked to someone from the IT department and told them about this huge advantage we have in that department. And they told me, "Well, have you heard about this process mining tool?" I said, "No, please tell me a bit more about that." And so when I was enlightened by that and inspired by that, I went back to this new department and talked to one of my employees. And he said, "Well, I've got all the data." And he's the one, by the way, it's very, very good if you're doing lean management to have someone in your department, your lean department, who's absolutely sovereign with transparency and data. And one of those guys was that guy with his sovereignty and transparency. And I just showed him the Disco tool, process mining tool, and he just drew out the data from the ERP system, put that into the tool. Really honest, that was in the first place, there was just an Excel file with 4 columns altogether. And that was done quickly, really quickly. To answer the first question, how long did it take to identify the bottlenecks? A day, because it was really drawn out of the system. I only had to get to know the tool for process mining itself. That was all. Otherwise, I would have gone to shop floor and to the people, and then take my clock and really visit every step. And that would have taken so much more time. The second part of the question, how long did it take for the change process to obtain new data with improved times? I think that's the time from recognizing where our obstacles are until unleashing the potential.
Right.
And that really depended on the process we wanted to improve, and we did improve. If there was a process with no dependencies, for example, we could do that with that Agile. and independent team, a cross-functional team, we could do that in a week. But there were other processes, for example, the calculation and approval process, when we, for example, had to deal and had an interface with customers or with other departments. That took quite longer, as we had to go into deep communication and discussion with our partners, find a great solution that's suitable and great for everyone, then came up with the solution. So from 1 week to a month, it really depended on how many players we had. But this really different bunch of flowers to improve. That's really what's challenging and what I really like at my job, because no day is just like the other. It's always a challenge day by day, and it's not getting boring. And process mining really helps us to set the right focus. And this is why I like the combination of lean management, transparency, business intelligence, lean management. I think you can really feel that I have a passion for this topic, and this is loads of fun. It's good to feel that something is better the next day, and this is why I'm doing this.
That's great. I think that's the perfect closing words. So there were some more interesting questions that we didn't get to right now, but we will, we can follow up and continue the discussion in our Campfire Slack community. So please do go there and add your questions if you have any new questions. Also, we will stick around. Christian will be around as well, and so we will continue talking about this. But first of all, thank you for coming back today and for revisiting your presentation and going through these questions together. We will go into a break now, a brief break where we prepare the presentation that is coming up quarter to the hour. So quarter to the hour, we will be back with the presentation by Carmen and Nortje from Total, and we will see you. We will see you then. Bye bye.
Pleasure to see you again. Bye.
Bye.